Penguin Random House Canada presents Nikolski by Nicolas Dickner, read for you by Chris Patton.
(1989) Prologue. Magnetic Anomaly. My name is unimportant. It all started in September 1989, at about 7 in the morning. I'm still asleep, curled up in my sleeping bag on the living room floor. There are cardboard boxes, rolled-up rugs, half-disassembled pieces of furniture, and toolboxes heaped around me. The walls are bare, except for the pale spots left by the pictures that had hung there for too many years. The window lets in the monotonous, rhythmic sound of the waves rolling over the stones. Every beach has a particular acoustic signature, which depends on the force and length of the waves, the makeup of the ground, the form of the landscape, the prevailing winds, and the humidity in the air. It's impossible to confuse the subdued murmur of Mallorca with the resonant roll of Greenland's prehistoric pebbles, or the choral melody of the beaches of Belize, or the hollow growl of the Irish coast. The surf I hear this morning is easy enough to identify. The deep, somewhat raw rumbling, the crystalline ringing of the volcanic stones, the slightly asymmetrical breaking of the waves, the water rich in nutriments. There's no mistaking the shores of the Aleutian Islands. I mutter something and open my left eye a crack. Where can that unlikely sound be coming from? The nearest ocean is over 1,000 kilometers away. And besides, I've never set foot on a beach. I crawl out of the sleeping bag and stumble over to the window. Clutching at the curtains, I watch the garbage truck pull up with a pneumatic squeal in front of our bungalow. Since when do diesel engines imitate breaking waves? Dubious poetry of the suburbs. The two trash collectors hop down from their vehicle and stand there, dumbstruck, contemplating the mountain of bags piled on the asphalt. The first one, looking dismayed, pretends to count them. I start to worry. Have I infringed some city bylaw that limits the number of bags per house? The second garbage man, much more pragmatic, sets about filling the truck. He obviously couldn't care less about the number of bags, their contents, or the story behind them. There are exactly 30 bags. I bought them at the corner grocery store, a shopping experience I'm not about to forget. Standing in the cleaning products aisle, I wondered how many garbage bags would be needed to hold the countless memories my mother had accumulated since 1966. What volume could actually contain 30 years of living? I was loath to do the indecent arithmetic. Whatever my estimation might be, I was fearful of underestimating my mother's existence. I went for a brand that seemed sufficiently strong. Each package contained 10 revolutionary ultra-plastic refuse bags with a 60-liter capacity. I took 3 packages for a total of 1,800 liters. The 30 bags turned out to be adequate, though I did on occasion enlist my foot to press the point home, and now the garbage men are busy tossing them into the gaping mouth of the truck. Every so often, a heavy steel jaw crushes the trash with a pachyderm-like groan. Nothing at all like the poetic susurrations of the waves. Actually, the whole story, since it needs to be told, began with the Nikolski compass. The old compass resurfaced in August, 2 weeks after the funeral. My mother's endless agony had worn me out. Right from the initial diagnosis, my life had turned into a relay race. My days and nights were spent shuttling from the house, to work, to the hospital. I stopped sleeping, ate less and less, lost nearly 5 kilos. It was as if I were the one struggling with the tumors. Yet the truth was never in doubt. My mother died after 7 months, leaving me to bear the entire world on my shoulders. I was drained, my thinking out of focus, but there was no question of throwing in the towel. Once the paperwork was taken care of, I launched into the last big cleanup. I looked like a survivalist, holed up in the basement of the bungalow with my 30 garbage bags, an ample supply of ham sandwiches, cans and cans of concentrated frozen orange juice, and the FM radio with the volume turned down low. I gave myself a week to obliterate 5 decades of existence, 5 closetfuls of odds and ends crumbling under their own weight. Now, this sort of cleanup may seem grim and vindictive to some, but understand, I found myself suddenly alone in the world, with neither friends nor family, but still with an urgent need to go on living. Some things just had to be jettisoned. I went at the closets with the cool detachment of an archaeologist, separating the memorabilia into more or less logical categories. A cigarillo box filled with seashells, 4 bundles of press clippings about the U.S. radar stations in Alaska, an old Instamatic 104 camera, over 300 pictures taken with the aforementioned Instamatic 104, numerous paperback novels abundantly annotated, a handful of costume jewelry, a pair of Janis Joplin-style pink sunglasses. I entered a troubling time warp, and the deeper I plunged into the closets, the less I recognized my mother. The dusty objects belonging to a life in the distant past bore witness to a woman I'd never known before. Their mass, their texture, their odor seeped into my mind and took root among my own memories like parasites. My mother was thus reduced to a pile of disconnected artifacts smelling of mothballs. I was annoyed by the way events were unfolding. What had started out as a simple matter of sweeping up was gradually turning into a laborious initiation. I looked forward to the time when I would finally reach the bottom of the closets, but their contents seemed inexhaustible. It was at this point that I came upon a large packet of diaries, 15 softcover notebooks filled with telegraphic prose. My hopes were rekindled. Maybe these diaries would allow me to put together the pieces of the puzzle? I arranged the notebooks chronologically. The first one began on June 12th, 1966. My mother headed off to Vancouver when she was 19, feeling that a proper break with one's family should be gauged in kilometers, and that her own falling out deserved to be measured in continents. She ran away on June 25th at dawn in the company of a hippie named Dauphin. The 2 Confederates shared the cost of gas, shifts at the wheel, and long drags on thin joints rolled as tight as toothpicks. When not driving, my mother wrote in her notebook. Her script, very neat and orderly at the outset, quickly started to furl and unfurl, tracing the eddies and whirls of THC. At the beginning of the second notebook, she had woken up alone on Water Street, barely able to stutter a few halting phrases in English. Notepad in hand, she went about communicating through ideograms, by turns sketching and gesturing. In a park, she made the acquaintance of a group of arts students who were busy crafting delicate origami manta rays out of psychedelic paper. They invited her to share their overcrowded apartment, their cushion-filled living room, and a bed already occupied by 2 other girls. Every night at about 2 a.m., the 3 of them squeezed in under the sheets and smoked hand-rolled cigarettes while they discussed Buddhism. My mother swore she would never return to the East Coast. Whereas her first weeks in Vancouver were recounted with a wealth of detail, the rest of her journey grew more and more elliptical, as the demands of nomadic life evidently supplanted those of narration. She never stayed anywhere more than 4 months, but would all of a sudden take off to Victoria, then Prince Rupert, San Francisco, Seattle, Juneau, and 1,000 other places she did not always bother to identify clearly. She scraped by thanks to various paltry expedients, hawking poems by Richard Brautigan to passerby, selling postcards to tourists, juggling, cleaning motel rooms, shoplifting in supermarkets. Her escapade went on like this for 5 years. Then, in June 1970,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?